Welcome back. We're discussing how U.S. President Barack Obama handled major foreign policy issues in his first year in office. Has he made any progress on critical challenges such as the Middle East crisis, Iran and Afghanistan? Joining me now is Stephen Walt from Massachusetts. He is Professor of International Affairs at Harvard University. Christopher Dickey is in London. He is the Paris Bureau Chief and Middle East Regional Editor for Newsweek magazine. Also with us from Austin, Texas, is academic and author Philip Bobbitt. He served under 3 U.S. presidents and now teaches law at the University of Texas and Columbia Law School. Welcome back to all of you. Dr. Walt, let me start with you this half of the show. If we look at the balance, if we look at a sort of balance sheet of the administration's relations with Iran, at the end of 1 year, does it look like a net loss for Washington?
I think it is, although it's not really Washington's fault. They were clearly hoping to get a different result out of the presidential election in Iran back last summer. They were hoping there would be enough of a shift in the climate of opinion there that their initial overtures, which I think were very well intentioned, very well meant, would get responded to. And you'll recall that even after the contested election and some of the domestic upheaval in Iran, we thought we had some progress made on a deal on Iran's low enriched uranium stockpile, which then, of course, got stymied by internal divisions within Iran. So again, I credit the administration for moving in the right direction. And they got a bad break in terms of how things have evolved within Iran itself. Having said all of that, I think it is also true that the administration has not gone far enough in recognizing what I would call the sort of limits of American influence here. In my judgment, you're not going to get a deal where Iran agrees to give up all nuclear enrichment, which has been the American position. Both the current regime and the opposition is strongly supportive of Iran having its own enrichment capability. You may, over time, be able to get Iran to agree to a deal where they have full scope IAEA safeguards, where you have the additional protocol for inspections ratified, and Iran formally agrees not to weaponize, etc., in exchange for various security guarantees from the United States and agreement on some other outstanding issues. The key point, though, is that's not going to be easy to reach. The domestic situation in Iran is getting in the way of that, and it's going to require enormous patience on the part of the United States in order to get to that kind of an outcome. And the longer this proceeds, the more people are going to start asking if there's another way, the more that you're going to hear the same old voices talking about some form of military action. Bottom line is this issue is not going to go away anytime soon, and I worry about what happens if we don't get some diplomatic progress.
Okay. Professor Bobbitt, there was an article very critical of Barack Obama's foreign policy in the Wall Street Journal, which we should add is no friend of this presidency, at least the editorial pages. And it was written by Eliot Cohen, and in it he wrote that Obama's year began with apologies to the Muslim world, which got nowhere, a doomed attempt to beat Israel into line, utopian pleas to abolish nuclear weapons, and concessions to Russia that got nothing back. Is that fair criticism?
Well, I'm a great admirer of Eliot Cohen, but I think that really overstates the case. That sounds a rather slanted view. Remember, this is 1 year. And in 1 year, the important points are making good appointments, getting the process going in the White House so the president has the right information to make decisions, and laying the groundwork for further progress. I thought Steve Walt laid out really masterfully the Iranian situation that the president faces, and I think he has laid the proper groundwork for that. But he's not an all-powerful figure. Developments within Iran, developments within other states are going to shape the options available. I think the president's done a good job in his first year, but it's just been 1 year.
Christopher Dickey, I just want to get onto one other foreign policy issue, and that is Pakistan, which has called for a very delicate balance on the part of this administration. They've pushed the Pakistanis, but only so far. Do you think it's worked?
Well, I think they've pushed them as far as they can. I think that the great risk, of course, is that if the United States is seen to be pushing too hard and the government in Pakistan is seen to be acquiescing, then it becomes so weak that it isn't really a very useful ally. I think the area where the United States has pushed the hardest is in those Predator missile strikes, Predator attacks up in Waziristan and in some of the tribal areas, which are very hard for any Pakistani government to accept, but which ultimately have been accepted. And I think going back to something we said before, you want to watch Obama's policy move away from a war on terror, an abstraction, to a very, very targeted war aimed at individual terrorists. That's what he's trying to do. And he can't, he doesn't want to risk a situation where he starts making big pronouncements and putting a lot of pressure on friendly governments in the name of some great cause, or even because the Americans think it would be stabilizing, and he winds up just undermining his entire case. He wants to keep his fight against terrorism very, very focused on individuals and groups, and allow Pakistan to muddle its way through if he possibly can.
Okay, I want to go to Dr. Walt. You've written about this idea of soft power, things like cultural exchanges, welcoming foreign students to the United States, academic exchanges and things like this. You defined it as the capacity to influence others without twisting arms, threatening or compelling. How does the Obama White House rate with this kind of diplomacy?
Well, I think there's no question that by simply improving the American image around the world, the United States or the Obama administration is able to better exploit the attractive power of American society, the fact that American universities are still magnets for influential people from around the world who come here, learn about the United States, are able to do then great things in their own societies. Simply by making the United States appear a more cooperative partner around the world, they've made some real progress. And I want to second what Chris Dickey said a moment ago here, that foreign policy is rarely a matter of dramatic breakthroughs, of secret trips to China, of things that transform things overnight. We had 8 years of an administration that tried to transform large parts of the world through the unilateral use of American power, and we all saw how well that worked. I think a slower, calmer, more patient, and more disciplined approach to managing various problems around the world that understands what American power can do, but also understands what the limits of American power are, is more likely to pay off in the long run, and certainly will avoid some of the problems that Barack Obama inherited when he became president a year ago.
Okay, gentlemen, that's where we have to leave it. We've run out of time. Thanks to all of you for being with us.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching and being with us. Remember, you can follow our program on Twitter. We'll keep you notified on upcoming shows, and you can send us questions and comments to pose to our guests. On the next show, Mission Afghanistan. We look at the war through the perspective of a U.S. military officer who led a secret mission into Taliban territory in 2001. Make sure to tune in for that. Join us then, and we'll see you the next time.